Good morning. My name is Mike LaMagna. I'm a trust and estates and elder lawyer. And I thought what would be very interesting is for me to sort of talk a little bit about, my last year and, some of the things I learned about estate planning, for the unexpected circumstances, especially during a pandemic. And it might be helpful to all of you to understand a little bit more about what I do and a little bit more about what you may want to do in the near future. So, a lot of times when people hear estate planning, they think, I don't have an estate, I don't have millions of dollars. But that's really not what estate planning is. Estate planning is really preparing yourself for the unexpected, like losing capacity, sudden or gradual illness, disability, even divorce, having a disabled child, or even a pandemic. It's talking about how do we save from estate taxation after I pass away so that I can leave more money to my children or even my pets, my fur babies. It's figuring out, what happens if I passed away and, we need money right away to bury me, or we need money right away for some other purpose. How can we do that? And on the long-term care planning side, which is another part of the business, is how do we prepare for the unexpected costs of getting sick, growing older, or getting Alzheimer's or dementia, or having a physical inability. So, what we do is we sit down and, we learn about you. We actually talk to you and meet you and go through what your situation is, because everybody's situation is a little bit different. And we consider, when we balance the goals of estate planning and long-term care planning. And, it was very interesting during the pandemic. What happened was, people got sick. So people that we had worked with that had plans already, they were able to, initiate the plans. So if they were in the hospital, their legal documents, came alive and were able to work for them. The people that passed away, unfortunately, of which I had 51 people die from the pandemic that were clients of mine, 47 between March of last year and May. And on April 18th, I actually had 5 people pass away. So not only the people that were passing away, but the people whose families were concerned about them. So it was really very challenging. And then to add to that, all of a sudden the courts closed. And I don't think that anybody ever anticipated the courts closing. And what we had to do was become very creative about the planning. And I am sorry about the barking. We had to become very creative. And one great thing that happened was there was remote witnessing and notarizing. So the governors, they in New York and Connecticut, where I practice, were able to allow lawyers and notaries to witness and notarize from remote spots. So right over Zoom or FaceTime, send the documents to people. If they were in a facility, a nursing home or assisted living or the hospitals were required and the facilities were required to go through the, to provide the documents that we would draft and go over and use things like iPads to make sure that they were able to sign. So, creativity really came in. One of my favorite phrases, and I'm sure you've heard me say it before, is tools in the tool belt. When my oldest was in first grade, which she's now in 10th grade, believe it or not, and I know, Marie, you're going to say, wow, during the kindergarten, during the first grade parents' night, the teacher said, my job is to give you guys tools in your tool belt. And that's what I see my job as. It's utilizing legal documents to solve a problem or an outcome. So that problem or outcome involves, the most fundamental documents, which is an enhanced power of attorney, a healthcare directive, a living will, which says what you would or wouldn't want at end of life. Those documents are very important because if you don't have a power of attorney or advanced healthcare directives and you lose capacity and you're alive and sick, then we have to go to court for what's called a conservatorship. Which takes time, money, and sometimes has an unpredictable outcome. Anytime you go to court, there can be an unpredictable outcome. So it's much better to be able to do the work ahead of time and to plan for the time that you may become incapacitated. And your last will and testament is a legal document that deals with after you pass away. It appoints somebody called an executor to make in order to facilitate your will, and says exactly who you're giving and what you're giving. And your designation of burial directive has become very, very important as well, because that actually says what you want or don't want as far as your burial. A lot of times people put in their wills what they want after they pass away, but unfortunately your will is not operative till it goes through the court system. So having something like a designation of burial directive, if it's important to you to say what you want to have with your remains after you pass away. And as we go up the food chain, things get a little bit more complicated. We utilize trusts, which are just legal containers that allow people to do certain things. A revocable trust avoids probate after you pass away, and it enables you during your lifetime to have people to make decisions for you regarding your finances, and allows you a lot of times we can keep you at home with a revocable living trust. Or during the pandemic, it was actually easier to execute a revocable living trust than it was a last will and testament. And then we go into things like irrevocable trusts, which are like revocable trusts, but they're used for estate taxation. They're used to protect against long-term care. And it's not that everybody needs all of these. What we do is we sit down and we ask what your goals are. It's very simple. What is it that you're looking to do? And then we utilize the legal services in order to accomplish that and to get an outcome. So what are some things you can do right now? Number one, if you don't have estate planning, get estate planning. Do a power of attorney and a healthcare proxy and a living will and a last will and testament. At least get the fundamentals done, just in case something happens. I'm a big fan of having a team of professionals. So working with people like Daniel, working with people like George, working with people, like Tracy Riska. So you couldn't imagine how complicated your life is if all of a sudden you couldn't make decisions. So having your trusted professionals together is huge. Coming up with contingency plans for unforeseen circumstances. The people that are going to be your agents, discussing it with them so that they know what you want. And have an emergency plan. I encourage my clients to have an emergency plan envelope, which has your healthcare proxy, emergency numbers, and medical information, and pet information. There was a lot of people who had pets during the pandemic and went to the hospital, and then there was no one to take care of them, or nobody even knew that they had pets. So it's really important to be prepared. And one thing about what we do as far as an individualized approach, so we work with you. It's not just a situation where we draft documents, send them to you, and you sign them. I get a lot of clients each week who say, I don't know what my documents say. I have no idea what I did. My attorney just put this in front of me. And that's not our goal. Our goal is to work with you, get to know you, and to tailor your legal documents to your situation. And as Alex said, we are, I actually just transitioned out of Riker last week. Law offices of Michael LaMagna, we're doing all the same thing with offices, in New York and Connecticut. And we believe we have a unique approach to estate planning and long-term care planning. My background leads to that. I'm a nursing home administrator for over 20 years, run lots of different healthcare institutions, been teaching at Long Island University in the master's program. And so this is really what my career has been for, the last 20 plus years. And I really enjoy what I do, and I really enjoy sitting down with people and talking with them about what their goals. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have time for one question if anybody has questions for Mike. Mindy.
Yes, I do.
I lost my mother 3 weeks ago this morning.
I'm so sorry.
And if her, thank you, if her estate wasn't planned, I don't know what we would have done. So this is so important. So thank you. And I will be calling you because I need to plan my will. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for letting people know how important it is. And, there's always people, it's interesting, the people between, the last year who had their plans together and the people who didn't. And it was just so emotional for them. And that's really, we just want to make sure, I want people to call us, say, our plans, you did a great job, our plan is done, and now we could sit back and make sure that everything is taken care of.
Can I ask a question, Mike?
Sure.
Okay. A lot of people have passed away this year. A lot of people have not been able to either have funerals or have had funerals that they probably didn't want. Is there a way to put into the will or into a letter that could be delivered as someone passed about what they expected for a funeral or they didn't want in a funeral, like
That-
open caskets and
That's the
things like-
designation of burial directive. Yes, absolutely. And that,
Okay.
see, don't forget, the will is only operative after the court says it's operative. So
Right.
that can take some time. So the designation of burial directive is effective immediately.
All right, thank you, Mike. If you have not met with Mike, this would be an amazing time to do it, not only because this is so prevalent and top of mind, estate planning. People tend to not think about it until the 11th hour, by which point it's often impossible or late. So go ahead and meet with Mike. You can learn about sort of his new setup. So please, I encourage you to do that.